Welcome back to our channel, your ultimate destination for all the latest drama, explosive twists, and shocking betrayals in the world of the bold and the beautiful. Today is a fantastic day to dive deep into the scandalous lives of Los Angeles' fashion elite. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let us unpack the jaw-dropping chaos that is about to unfold. The landscape of Los Angeles is about to experience a seismic shift, an earthquake of emotional devastation that will leave one of the city's most powerful families entirely in ruins. When Darcy Dillon booked her flight to the sun-drenched coast of California, she was not embarking on a mission of peace, nor was she arriving with the intention of waving a white flag of surrender. Darcy did not come to Los Angeles to negotiate a truce with the formidable Katie Logan Spencer. She arrived with a singular, ruthless objective: to completely and utterly annihilate the person who dared to threaten her daughter. For weeks, Katie had been waging a relentless, unforgiving psychological war against Melissa Dillon, utilizing every ounce of her immense wealth, societal influence, and corporate power to humiliate and degrade the younger woman. Katie, blinded by her own maternal protectiveness and an overwhelming sense of hubris, believed she could crush Melissa like an insignificant insect beneath her designer heels. However, Katie made a catastrophic miscalculation. She severely underestimated the primal, venomous wrath of a mother bear whose cub has been cornered, and she failed to realize that by challenging the Dillon women, she was inviting her own spectacular downfall. Katie Logan Spencer had been parading around Los Angeles with an impenetrable air of superiority, weaponizing her status as a media mogul and the co-founder of Logan Creations to make Melissa's life a living hell. She had brutally interrogated Melissa at the beach house, hurling vicious accusations of gold digging and manipulation, determined to eradicate the young woman from Spencer's life. Katie believed her fortress was secure, confident that her money and power made her untouchable. But Darcy Dillon is a woman of immense strategic brilliance. Upon assessing the battlefield of Los Angeles, Darcy did not waste her energy engaging in petty shouting matches or attempting to match Katie's financial intimidation. Instead, Darcy meticulously analyzed her opponent, searching for the structural weakness in Katie's seemingly perfect armor. It did not take long for Darcy to identify the most glaring, vulnerable target in Katie's life: her husband, the infamous dollar bill Spencer. Darcy recognized that the quickest and most devastating way to destroy a queen was not to attack her throne, but to seduce her king. At this precise moment in time, Bill Spencer was a man teetering dangerously on the edge of a psychological precipice. The grueling, high-stakes corporate war between Logan Creations and Forrester Creations had taken a massive toll on his usual impenetrable bravado. His bitter, escalating blood feud with Ridge Forrester had recently culminated in a violent physical altercation, leaving Bill with a bruised face and an even more severely bruised ego. The relentless pressure of managing the Spencer Publications empire, combined with the stress of funding Katie's ambitious fashion ventures and dealing with Will's recent arrest and violent outbursts, had pushed Bill to his absolute limits. He was a titan of industry, feeling isolated, unappreciated, and overwhelmed by the chaotic whirlwind of family drama that seemed to follow the Logans wherever they went. While Katie was entirely consumed by her obsessive crusade to destroy Melissa, she had completely neglected the emotional state of her own husband, leaving the door wide open for a predator to slip inside. On one particularly dark and heavy evening, the atmosphere inside the Spencer Publications executive office was thick with tension and the pungent aroma of aged whiskey. Bill Spencer sat alone in the dim, shadowy light of his office, his tie loosened and his posture defeated. He was heavily intoxicated, furiously downing glass after glass of liquor in a desperate attempt to numb the lingering sting of his war with Ridge Forrester and the exhausting demands of his chaotic life. The alcohol coursed through his veins, blurring his normally sharp judgment and amplifying his deep-seated feelings of resentment and vulnerability. He was a powerful man feeling incredibly weak, yearning for an escape from the relentless expectations placed upon his shoulders. It was in this exact moment of profound weakness and drunken despair that the door to his office slowly clicked open, revealing the silhouette of a woman who was about to change the trajectory of his life forever. Darcy Dillon did not enter the room with the aggressive, combative energy of an enemy. Instead, she glided into the dimly lit office with the smooth, calculating grace of a phantom. She had bypassed the building's security with ease, moving with a quiet confidence that immediately commanded the space. When Bill looked up, his alcohol-glazed eyes met the piercing, empathetic gaze of Darcy. She did not judge him for his disheveled state or his drunken anger. Instead, she approached him as a comforting angel, offering a soft, soothing presence that starkly contrasted with the shrill, demanding energy he had been receiving from Katie. Darcy's voice was like velvet as she spoke to him, validating his frustrations, stroking his monumental ego, and gently assuring him that his anger toward Ridge and the world was completely justified. She played the role of the ultimate confidant, a siren singing a sweet, intoxicating melody to a sailor desperate for a safe harbor. The psychological manipulation was executed with terrifying perfection. Darcy slowly closed the distance between them, her movements deliberate and intoxicating. She poured him another drink, her fingers lightly brushing against his, sending a jolt of electricity through the heavy air. She listened intently as Bill slurred through his grievances, his anger melting into a desperate need for affection and validation. Darcy whispered words of admiration, making Bill feel like the invincible king he desperately wanted to be, rather than the exhausted financier his wife treated him as. The alcohol had stripped away Bill's formidable defenses, leaving him entirely susceptible to Darcy's enchanting spell. The physical proximity became unbearable, the magnetic pull between them intensifying with every passing second as Darcy positioned herself as the ultimate antidote to his overwhelming stress. As the tension in the room reached a boiling point, the boundaries of loyalty and marital vows evaporated into the night air. Bill Spencer, a man who prided himself on control, completely surrendered to the intoxicating allure of the woman standing before him. He reached out, pulling Darcy into a fierce, desperate embrace. Darcy responded with equal fervor, her calculated seduction culminating in a passionate, breathless kiss that ignited a raging fire within the cold walls of the Spencer office. They were two powerful forces colliding in the dark, their bodies entangled in a forbidden dance of lust, anger, and profound betrayal. For Bill, it was a moment of pure, unadulterated escape from his reality. For Darcy, it was the ultimate checkmate, the triumphant execution of a masterstroke designed to rip Katie Logan's world to absolute shreds. Meanwhile, entirely oblivious to the catastrophic betrayal unfolding within the walls of her husband's empire, Katie Logan Spencer was making her way toward the Spencer Publications building. She had just finished another exhausting day of corporate warfare at Logan Creations and had spent the better part of her evening plotting new and vicious ways to humiliate Melissa Dillon and drive her out of Los Angeles. Katie was riding a high of arrogant satisfaction, eager to share her latest malicious strategies with Bill and bask in what she believed was their shared superiority. She walked down the quiet, empty corridors of the executive floor, the rhythmic clicking of her heels echoing through the silence. She approached the heavy double doors of Bill's office, expecting to find her husband working late, ready to offer her the unwavering support and validation she felt she inherently deserved. Katie turned the handle and pushed the door open, the words of her latest triumph already forming on her lips. However, the breath was violently snatched from her lungs, and the words died instantly in her throat. The scene that greeted her was a horrifying, paralyzing tableau that defied all comprehension. Time seemed to freeze as Katie's eyes adjusted to the dim light, locking onto the devastating sight before her. There, in the center of the room, was her husband, the man she had fought so hard to reclaim, passionately and intimately entangled in the arms of another woman. The shock was so profound, so absolute, that Katie felt the floor drop out from beneath her feet. The crystal glass of her reality shattered into a million jagged pieces as the identity of the woman in Bill's arms finally registered in her horrified brain. It was not just any woman. It was Darcy Dillon, the mother of the girl Katie had been mercilessly tormenting. The very woman Katie viewed as lower-class trash, an enemy she had arrogantly believed she could easily dispatch. The sheer magnitude of the betrayal was paralyzing. Katie stood frozen in the doorway, her face pale and her eyes wide with an unspeakable, agonizing terror. The silence in the room was deafening, broken only by the sudden, sharp gasp that escaped Katie's trembling lips. Bill and Darcy froze, pulling apart just enough to register the devastating intrusion. Bill's drunken haze momentarily lifted, replaced by a flash of panicked realization as he locked eyes with his horrified wife. But it was Darcy's reaction that truly chilled Katie to the very marrow of her bones. Darcy did not look ashamed. She did not look panicked. Instead, a slow, triumphant, and utterly lethal smirk spread across Darcy's face. It was the look of a predator who had just successfully slaughtered its prey. In that agonizing, heart-stopping moment, the Spencer marriage was instantly and violently reduced to ashes. The trust, the history, the hard-fought battles Katie and Bill had endured to rebuild their family were entirely obliterated by a single, catastrophic act of infidelity. Katie's mind raced, a chaotic whirlwind of grief, humiliation, and blinding rage consuming her entirely. She realized with horrifying clarity that this was not a simple, drunken mistake. This was a targeted, calculated assassination of her life. Darcy had not just slept with her husband. She had fundamentally conquered him, stripping Katie of her power, her dignity, and her security in one fell swoop. The humiliation of discovering her husband in the arms of the woman she hated most in the world was a psychological torture that Katie could barely withstand. But the true horror of the situation extended far beyond the death of her marriage. As Katie stared at the defiant, victorious Darcy and the compromised, defeated Bill, a terrifying realization washed over her. This betrayal had forged a new, catastrophic dynamic in Los Angeles. Darcy Dillon and Dollar Bill Spencer were no longer just two individuals. They had inadvertently formed a deadly, unholy alliance. Bill's inherent ruthlessness, combined with Darcy's fierce, protective venom, created a force that was infinitely more dangerous than Ridge Forrester or any corporate rival. Katie realized that by challenging the Dillon women, by arrogantly using her wealth to humiliate Melissa, she had not asserted her dominance. Instead, she had foolishly and recklessly invited a ravenous wolf directly into her home. The war between the Logans and the Dillons had just escalated to an apocalyptic level of destruction. Darcy had proven that she was not a victim to be bullied by the Spencer wealth. She was a conqueror who knew exactly how to dismantle an empire from the inside out. Katie Logan Spencer, the woman who believed she held all the cards, was left standing in the ruins of her own hubris, staring into the eyes of the wolf that was about to devour everything she held dear. The balance of power in Los Angeles has been violently overthrown, and as the dust settles on this catastrophic betrayal, one thing is absolutely certain. The wrath of Darcy Dillon has only just begun, and the Logan family will never, ever be the same.